Good morning. If you're just joining, we just started the live stream today. So thanks for being out here and joining us live. We're streaming on both YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So whichever platform you would prefer, that's the one you can go to see the live stream. So we're continuing on this work in progress on this portrait. And this is our fourth time working on this. Now, last week, if you were here, you may recall that we didn't have a whole lot of time to spend on it. I think we got maybe 30 minutes in, maybe a little bit longer. And so today, I'm hoping to go just a little bit longer than that. So I'm wanting to start working in this mid-range area a little bit more today. And I reinstalled the chat window, so hopefully that's working today. It appears to be. So if you can hear me and if everything's going all right, I don't know, give me a thumbs up or something like that, and I'll see if I can get the text to voice working over here as well. That makes it so much easier when we're able to do that, when I'm able to hear something that you guys are typing in. That way I can keep drawing and pay attention to what's going on over there as well. Okay, let me look here. Ah, very cool. So Claudette, thanks. She says I can, and I'm able to hear you as well, so that's good. All right, let me sharpen this pencil. We'll get started here. Again, as always, if you have any questions while I'm progressing through the piece, just go ahead and ask those. I'm working on LuxArchival Sanded Paper with colored pencil. And we're trying to progress through the piece and work on a balance of values as we build it up. And then we're going to be concerned about color later on. I'm not concerned about color right now at this point. That's just not something that matters a whole lot at this point. So that will come later. I'm trying to find the color I want here. I guess I should read once in a while on what I've got. Yeah, that looks good. A violet gray. That's what I want. Want to get that darker value in there for the eyes and the sclera of the eyes again. And actually I need to fade this just a little bit more than what I did already. So I need a darker color in order to do that. And this one should work fine. This is a Van Dyke Brown. Should work just fine. There we go. So primarily we've been using Polychromos pencils and a little bit of Derwent Lightfast as well. And I'm going to be using more Derwent Lightfast probably today, and a little bit of Luminance colors as well. There's a lot of shading right in here going on. There we go. Okay, I want to make sure that I've captured that band around the eye. It's going to be a little bit lighter value for a little while, and that's fine. I can pay attention to the contour and the form of that particular feature, that little band around the eye. It's a little bit of skin that is a little more prominent. And it goes up this way just a little bit, not a lot. And same thing over here. And there we go. Hey, Angel Stewart is joining us over on YouTube Live. Angel, how are you? So good to see you over here. All right. And Angel has been part of the Sharpened Artist Academy for a long time and has also been very active in the face value portrait course. So it's good to see you over here. All right. And she's part of the monthly sharpener as well. Let's get this in here. There we go. And I need to get her back on office hours. I'm going to convert you again to start joining us. I know that may be a difficult time for you, Angel, to be on there at the time that we're doing it, but that'd be awesome to get you back on there. So Claudette is asking over on YouTube live stream what the differences are between the Polychromos pencils and the Luminance pencils. And the biggest difference is the way the companies talk about the products. The Polychromos pencils are oil-based pencils, and the Luminance pencils are wax-based. And so there's a different delivery system, if you think of it that way, for the particular pencil. So they have a different feel. They perform just a little bit different. There's more, when we're talking about using them on sanded paper, then with the Polychromos pencil, there is more dust that will occur with Polychromos. And you can also spread it around a lot, which is a great thing to be able to, great property of that pencil, to be able to do that, to spread it around, like with a stiff bristle brush, things like that. And then with a wax-based pencil, like the Polychromos pencil, or the Luminance pencil, rather, you're able to get things a little more sealed in. You can get some of the colors and the layers sort of fixed in their spot. And that's a great thing to be able to do as well. Now, there's also a difference in the way that they look. You have more of a matte kind of finish to a Polychromos pencil, a oil-based pencil, than you do a wax-based. A wax-based, you sometimes can get that little bit of shine or sheen on it. So it's just something to be aware of some of the differences between the two.
Thank you for that great information.
Oh, you're very welcome, Claudette. Glad you're out here. Thanks for joining today. So we do this every week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in the neighborhood, cruise on by, stop by, and hang out for a little bit if you're able to. So, Sergio, man, how are you, Sergio, man? Thanks for joining us today. Sergio Man over on YouTube Live has a question about how to, well, you're asking, I guess, what would you consider, you're asking me, what would I consider the most wanted colors regarding skin tones? Favorite colors, let's see, I'm talking skin-based, yeah. So, okay, so the way that I usually think about skin tones is I think red, yellow, and blue, or brown, or some darker color. That's usually the way I think about it. So there are varying degrees and shades within each of those areas. And if you keep layering and keep thinking about those skin tones, and I'll answer your question more directly here in a moment, but that's the way I think about it, okay? So the reason I'm prefacing it like that is because I try not to think about absolute color designations, but that's my caveat. Now, there are some that I really love. So some of the skin tones in the Luminance line are, and I love these colors, this set of colors, because they've got 3 varying shades within each of these. So you've got burnt sienna, you've got brown ochre, and you've got burnt ochre as well. So within each of those, you got 3 different shades. You've got a 10%, a 50%, and then one that just bears the designation of the name: burnt sienna, brown ochre, or what is the other one? Burnt ochre, brown ochre, and burnt sienna. So 10% and 50%, and then what I call the full strength. They don't say, I don't think they say 100%, but that's what they are. So they're lighter shades. If you go to the 10%, it's a very light shade. So you can vary, you can contour, you can make a 3-dimensional look because you've started with a darker value and you've created that gradation in value very easily. Then, hope that helps. Those are some of my favorites. Now, there's some other ones as well, you know. Oh, Janine Milner, is out here. Awesome. She's over on Facebook Live. I've known Janine from several years back, so very cool. Thanks for joining, Janine. All right, let's see here. I want to try and add some of this mid-range values over here so that I can smooth some of this out as well. There we go. And I can take my brush and sort of blend things together just a little bit. Oh, good tips there, Sergio, man. Yeah, that is something that, you know, within a style, within a particular technique, that a portrait artist has to decide: are they going to allow the white of the paper or not? And you're indicating that you don't like to have the white of the paper in there. This fixation, as you call it, that I leave no white patches on the skin. Yeah, it's true. But you can decide, you know, if you're going to leave white showing through or not with colored pencil. And there's no right or wrong way, you know, I suppose, but there's a preference on whether or not, you know, you like a certain type of look. And yeah, certainly using some of those techniques to cover up everything works really well. Now I'm just going to brush a little bit in this hair to get rid of some of that color that I put down over here. Some of the rub off that's happening a little bit. We'll get rid of it here. All right, so I like to show you guys some of this in real time. I like to show you exactly what's going on when I'm using these different pencils. And I like to show you, you know, exactly how I would execute through a portrait. I think sometimes it's difficult to sort of visualize if we're looking at just a tutorial where it's written out for us, or even in a video, and we don't see, you know, just a transition between each of the layers. And so this is the reason why I thought this might be a good thing to do, is to help sort of unveil a little bit about this process and what goes on exactly. And I know there's different ways of progressing through a piece. I totally understand that, get that. I need to sharpen that one. Boy, I cannot wait to go in there with some darker values. I'm just really chomping at the bit as I look at some of this, and I'm wanting to go a little bit darker in certain areas, but trying to be patient with myself and not getting too big of a rush on some of that. That can spell out death if you get in too big a hurry and you start thinking, oh, I just want to get this darker value in here or the lighter value, and you're not careful about what you're doing. Okay. I think this is the Derwent Lightfast. This is the Van Dyke brown. So. Thanks, Claudette. So Claudette's asking, she's putting me on the spot here, and asking if I had a chance to name a color, what would I name it? That is so funny. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't give you a quick, ready answer on that. I don't know at this point. I'm too busy trying to memorize all the different names of all the pencils that we come across all the time. But that's a great question. Maybe someone else has an answer in the chat there. That's a fun question to think about. What would that name be, and why would you name it that?
I would not have thought to draw the values of the year in shade since most of it will be covered with hair and shadow. Learned something again.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Angel. She's saying that she wouldn't have thought to shade the ear, put the value over there in the ear, since the majority of it will be covered up by the hair. Yeah, and it actually needs to, as you probably know by now looking at it, that it needs to be quite a bit darker, or I need some of the complement colors in there in order to make that a little bit darker than what it is, which we'll get there. We'll get to that, but for right now, I'm leaving it sort of the way it is. And one of the nice things about using a like a cotton paper, like Stonehenge or something like that, and one of the differences then between this paper and a cotton paper is you can kind of glaze on certain colors, just kind of softly glaze it on. And not that you can't do it on sanded paper, but it's a little bit different when you're trying to do that. And you got to think about how much tooth you've got left with where you are in the drawing process. I mean, you can always add more tooth, right? You can always spray it to continue to get a new base layer to start with, which we'll probably do with this particular drawing. Yeah, I'm sure we will do that. But it's an interesting difference between using cotton paper and a sanded paper, that you can just kind of go on top of everything, especially if you've built up light layers, multiple layers, and just kind of glaze things on. All right. I don't know if you guys do that with your drawings, where you don't plan out what particular area you're going to focus on today or within the next hour or something like that. But I like to do that a lot of times. And then I'll still go to a particular feature, and then I don't want to leave that feature. I'll just stay right there at that particular feature and work on it and start trying to, you know, create a little more detail and contour and form and all those good things. So Sergio Man is saying Stonehenge is really heavyweight paper. He said you burnish the background on the current piece 3 times and you can still tint the color. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, that's why I really love that paper. The advantage you have with sanded paper, though, over a cotton paper is just the speed at which you can render. And that's just such a nice feature. Okay. Something's starting to kind of irritate me here. What is it? It's this little divot right there. There we go. Some unevenness where I put down some of the Polychromos earlier. There we go. Get rid of it. That's so much better. We're almost to that point on parts of the nose where we're not going to have a whole lot more that we can put down without spraying it. But I do like the colors that we've built up and the values as well. So we're good there. Okay. Well, that has a slightly different, more of a yellowish color over here for whatever reason. Probably sunlight hitting that area. Yeah, so Angel's asking if I color the face as if there were no glasses and then add them, and that appears to be what I'm doing this time. I did kind of plan that, but I don't always do it that way. I was debating on whether or not I would put the glasses in here. I have decided that I will include the glasses, but I want to try to work on all the skin tones first, and then I'll focus on the glasses after that. So I don't always do it that way, and in fact, because I'm on sanded paper, I can be more intuitive, and I can approach things a little bit differently than if I was on Stonehenge and cotton paper. And when I've drawn glasses in the past on Stonehenge, I started drawing every single detail pretty much from the beginning, like glasses and things like that. So that's one of the great advantages of being on this particular paper that I really love. All right, so we need more of a purple tint over here and not this brownish color. So I think, let me look. I'm going to decide on a particular color. I want it to be pretty dark, and then we're going to lightly glaze that on. That's a really, really great purple color. Ultramarine violet with the Polychromos line. It's a really good one. It's a little bit lighter, too light for what I'm wanting to do right now. So I'm looking at the Derwent Lightfast line, and I've got one here. It's not quite right. That one's sienna. Let me look here. Maybe one of these days I will organize pencils according to color. That might be easier sometimes than what my current mode of operating is. It's just like grabbing a bunch of colors within one of the pencil lines and figuring out which one I want to use. And let's see. I'm looking for... There's one that is called... Well, maybe it is that one. There's a purple. I guess you can't get more purple than the purple. It's really a dark purple, though. And there was another one that I was interested in. I don't see it at the moment. Here, that might be it. Deep rose. Yeah. Okay. Really, at this point, I need to just suggest some of the darker areas right there in this feature. And it's a little bit too dark, and that's fine. So I can smooth that back out after we're done with another color. That I want to get this in here a little bit of the structure here, and then we'll come back in with some lighter colors. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay. That's what we want. Right in there. All right. And then I can add purple. Let's see. And we'll smooth this out as well with some lighter colors here in just a moment. This is definitely one of those times that you don't want to, if you're working on a commission, you don't want to show the client this part. They'll freak out. They're like, he ruined it. Oh, hey, Barbara, how are you? Good to see Barbara over there on Facebook Live. Okay, now I can come in here with... There's a lighter... Now, don't worry about these dark areas because we're going to take care of that. It's fine. You just need that darker area for a moment. And because we're going to push that darker, then we're going to pull it back into a lighter area. But we need this... more of this lighter color over here first. And then we'll do that with this underneath the eye a little bit. We can suggest some of these lighter areas right in here, right there, right in here. So this will be some of our colors underneath the skin, which is great. That's what we want. And let's go up here. Add a little bit up there, especially down here and up here. I don't have as much over here on this side. I've got more muted colors on that side than I do over here on the right side. This left side, though, it's much more muted. Okay. Get that in there. And this whole area right in here. Yeah, it's kind of a lavender color. I'm not sure how it's showing up too well on the live stream, but yeah, it's more of a lavender color. So I want that under the skin, just a little bit over here around the eyes. So if I used it up there, I need to use it somewhere else a little bit. Just because I want balance. I want there to be some balance. Okay. And right in here is a little bit. So sometimes what we want to do is just force ourselves to, look at the colors and then force ourselves to see other colors. Try to figure out, what else do I see? What are these other colors? It's like my friend Debbie Hook calls twinkle colors. And I love that description, because that's kind of what it is. When you look up in the sky, what colors, do you see? Well, you don't always just see blue, right? Don't always just see yellow and red in a sunset or sunrise. But you're seeing a lot of other colors as well. And so if you force yourself to identify some of those colors, then it can enhance your artwork. Okay, I think I'll just go over the tops of that and grab my brush and start moving that around just a little bit. Okay. Use that smaller brush a little bit here. Just kind of push this in a little bit. And I also want to remember that, I'm going to spray a fixative, a workable fixative on this, and voila, I'll have more surface to work on. So more tooth to work on, which is nice. So I can get all of my other colors in here that I want, and I don't have to worry that, oh no, I've run out of layers. I don't have any more room. I can't do anything else, because I can always add more tooth to my project by spraying it. Okay. Look at it on our monitor here. It really helps to see this in a small thumbnail kind of size, rather than just looking at it over here. That I still have to deal with that cheek later on. And let's move that around just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Love that. I love that. That's so much better. All right. Getting closer to some of those actual darker mid-range tones that I want. Okay. Now, one thing we missed was up here on top. I'm dropping pencils. Up here on top. This is an exciting part too, because I've got that shadow up here that I can tint a little bit darker as well. It comes right in there at this keystone area, the glabella area right in here, which is so fun. Get that in there. And work that back around. It kind of fades out over here in that, on that left side, but there's a concentration of this darker value right over here in the center, and it actually dips down a little bit right there instead of going up as high as what I did. So that's fine, and we can remove that. That's the cool part. So I can sort of brush that a little bit first, kind of make room just a little bit. And then I can come back in here with the Polychromos. It's nearly like an eraser at this point with this ivory color. Push that back up. Oh, so no, I don't. You know what? Maybe she does. I didn't notice that. Angel saying, does she have a little scar between her eyes? And if so, do you add that? That is so subtle that if she does have one, good eye there, by the way. If she does, I'm not going to probably add that. I'll look at some other reference shots of her and see how big a deal it is. If it's prominent, then I might suggest it just a little tiny bit, but I don't think I will, because it's not very prominent, at least in this particular reference. So glad you pointed that out. I'll have to kind of take a look at that. Okay. And let's see here. All right. Now, I said this early on. I'll say it for the sake of others that may be here now that weren't earlier, but there are some highlights over here where the sun is actually hitting the mouth area and the chin. I'm not going to add those, probably. I probably will not add those. It doesn't really help the composition, I don't think. It could be a distraction for the viewer. So I don't really think there's any benefit in adding those particular two little highlights there. Okay. So if you look at that and you're seeing like a little bit of graininess up there in the forehead, don't worry about that. Don't let that bother you. That's fine. That's all part of the process, and it will work out just fine. Okay. So we will get a lot more pink up there. Not at the moment, though. I think I've blended enough of this together that I might need to just go in here and blow this off again. Yeah, I'm going to have to really work on that cheek over here. But we'll do that later on. It's not a big deal at the moment. I'm going to blow this just a little bit. Get rid of some of that. There we go. Okay. I want to look at this, raise my stool up a little bit, and I want to make sure that I am squared up with the drawing and the reference, and just sort of eyeball it and look for anything that is jumping out at me that needs corrected at the moment. Let's see. Could spend a little more time on. Let me look. Yeah, I think what I will do is work on that cheek just a little bit to make that look a little more contoured. Oh, thanks, Angel, for the compliment on the nose. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. Lady in Black over on YouTube live stream is saying straight up from her nose, the shadow is, or it's perhaps too high. Shadow on what? Straight up from her nose. Shadow, it's too high. Not sure what you're saying exactly, Lady in Black, but that's fine. Your interpretation might be different than mine, and that's fine as well. I'm not anywhere near done with a lot of the shading, but we're just trying to feel some of these things out at the moment. But thanks for joining over on YouTube. Appreciate it. Okay, let's take a look. I think I want to use this burnt sienna. Oh, yeah. You're talking about, Lady in Black just said, where you just added color. I'm presuming you're meaning the exact, just the forehead. Is that what you're talking about? Anyway, yeah, I'm not worried about that at the moment. Yeah, I know I went up too high. If that's what you're talking about, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But thanks for joining us, and I appreciate the comment. Okay, let's do this. I want to sort of get more of this burnt sienna. This is burnt sienna 10%. And just look at some contours here and there. Let's see. Now I have to decide over here if I'm going to add, and I will add the shadow of the glasses. I'm probably not going to do that at the moment, though. But I have to think about it, that will be there eventually. There we go. Okay. That could even be a little bit, I need to go a little bit darker in this area. There we go. I know this isn't the exact color that I want, which is fine. But I want that to be a little bit darker than what it is currently. Right in there. Okay. And so we're going in this lighter direction as well with this particular color. I can push that in there just a little bit right in here. A little bit more than what I've got already. We will create red lips, just to let you know. We're not going to leave those this brownish color that they are right now. Okay. This darker color, and fade this back just a little bit. Fade it over closer to this top of the mouth. And same way over here. Okay, I can add that 10% of burnt sienna. So it's the same color that I've been using over there for the corners of the mouth, corners of the smile lines over here, in the cheeks, and it's just a different percentage. Okay. All right. I can fade this back over this way. Now this part of the drawing process, it's one of those times where you have to remember what the goal is and where you're going, where you're eventually going to end up, because it can be discouraging if you only look at current results and what you're doing. If you're trying to establish just some darker values and get those in there, and then you're making corrections as you go, then you just have to remember what the goal is, where you're headed, the end result, and remind yourself that everything will work out just fine. I've seen people get to this kind of point right here and then just give up. They're like, oh, it's not turning out the way I wanted, and they're trying to establish some of their darker values and lighter values too. Same thing could be said. And they just kind of give up, and they think that they're not going to be able to progress through the piece and get it back to where they wanted. But if you just keep going and believe in what you're doing and that that initial vision that you had for the piece, and know that this is part of the layering process, and you're going to create more layers for yourself. When you spray it, then you'll have the confidence to keep going. So I'm thinking about all these contours in here, like this cheek. The top part of the cheek is reflecting light a little bit. But then there's also glasses that are going to be resting up there on part of that cheek as well. So I have to remember that. Oh, thank you, Lady in Black. Appreciate that. She's asking. I appreciate the compliment on the podcast. Thank you. So most of the commissions, you're asking about commissions for portraits, usually around 8 to 12 inches in the longest direction. That's usually what a portrait commission is. And as far as what size are most of them, they're usually, most of them are that size. And I would say the most popular is around 12 inches as the longest side, for the longest side. Funny story though. I had a portrait or not, well, it was a portrait commission, that there was an interest in a portrait commission for a cat. And so I spoke with the potential client, and I sent my commissions page as well, a link to my website. And then we scheduled a call. We spoke, and then he was asking about. I'm not going to say who it was or anything in case they're listening, but this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Ask about the pricing, and when I quoted, and I'm going to make up a number here, but when I quoted the price, when I talked about the price, let's just say I said $1,500. Let's say that, or no, that won't work. Let's say I said $950. All right, I'm not going to tell you the exact price, but it was around that. So anyway, I said, well, okay, that would be $950, and then and so the response was $9.50. And I don't think they were kidding. And I said, no. And he said, or is that $900.50? I said, yeah, that's $900.50. I said, oh, I had no idea what current art commission prices are. I said, well, I don't know what others are. There may be somebody that would do it for $9.50. I'm not sure, but that's what mine is. So anyway, needless to say, we didn't go forward with that particular commission. But I've had different phone calls like that before. And it's just kind of entertaining a little bit. And I don't know, they're fun stories, I guess, to think about later on and to reflect on. But anyway, yeah, I guess if you're not used to paying for art, then you're not sure what the prices are, and that could. That's the reason why I send my commissions link to potential clients, and I don't want them to just guess on what it may be. I want to be upfront about it. All right, we got some brighter pink in there. It's probably going to be something like that. Yeah, that will probably work when we get there. All right. So, I don't know, maybe you guys, if you're an artist and you're doing portraits or any kind of commission work, maybe you've got some similar stories as well. But I always, at the very least, it's an entertaining thing to think about, what some people's perception is, that just some of the prices that some think about, it wouldn't be worth your time at all. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Lady in Black. So it's I don't know. It makes me laugh now. It's a comical thing to me now. I'm not surprised anymore when that happens. Maybe a little bit surprised, but it's just it's comical. Okay. so that does need, let's see here, just a little bit more. All right, we are nearly at that point, though, I think, to start to add the glasses on there. I think I want to get a little bit darker value down here on that chin. Using a blue, using deep indigo. Just want to establish some of these dark values for a little while before we start blending a lot of this out and adding more colors. So let's go with, it goes in both directions here. We think about the way that that particular shadow works down here. It kind of spreads out as it goes away from the center of the chin. And that was brown ochre with the Derwent Lightfast line. There we go. Okay. And I can add a little bit of lighter value again, just establish that a little bit more right up in here. And let that fade down just a little bit. And then I've got a little bit of reflected light up here as well. Reflected light back into the shadow. There we go. Pull that back down. Even though this side is not quite as bright as the other side, it's nearly the same value as the other side. Barbara is over on Facebook relating a story from a movie, The Baker's Wife, she's presuming, and saying that the price that was quoted was $3.50, and she lays down $3.50 and walks out. That's funny. Here we go. Let's do this. So that part right there in the middle, right here, has a little bit of that influence of that ochre color. And spread spreads out just a little bit. There we go. And it looks like we may have gone too low on the chin just a little bit, which is fine, because then we can bring that back up from the neck, which is fine. There we go. Okay. Quite a bit moving around down here. A little bit of dust. Move that away just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that does need to come up just a little bit, looks like, which is fine. We can handle that later. I don't want to forget it, though. And I'll just put a little bit of an indication here for myself. That needs to come up just a little bit. Okay. Now, I want to get rid of that distracting ivory color down there. So I don't want that to dictate to me where that edge is. All right. Let's go back in here. This darker color a little bit. Push that in there just a little bit. Grab my edge there. That's better. Oh, Angel's asking what needs to come up, shading or the edge of the chin. Yeah, I start mumbling to myself, don't I? Sorry. The chin is a little bit too long. And so, and remember, this is not to scale with my reference. My actual drawing is smaller than the reference. And so I need to move the edge of the chin up. And so my method for doing that is to create more shading underneath it for the neck. So that's what I was talking about when I was mumbling. Sorry about that. I do that from time to time. There we go. A little bit of that in there, and then we'll reevaluate that again later on and see if that's more accurate or not. So, okay. It's a nice thing about a sanded paper is that ability to just draw intuitively. You know, I can put things in there where I think they might need to go for a while, and then I can evaluate it later. Thanks, Angel. All right. Get a little more of this down. Blend that out just a little bit. Now I want to kind of look at it a little bit more and see what we've got going on. Yeah, we'll need to We'll add a little bit more right in here. Okay, Lady in Black. I'm putting in a little bit more right here. I'm just teasing you. Moving that down a little bit. I see that. I saw it earlier, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it at the moment. And I want that to be more pink up there anyways. I don't want to get a lot of ivory up there. I don't need it. Could suggest a little bit of that pink right in here. And it can start to create more of that contour that we're after. Yeah, we're getting really close though to filling up all the tooth in certain areas. So we'll have to spray this in order to continue in the right way to be able to get a balance of pigment layers down. There we go. Getting closer. Every week we're getting a little bit closer. And then before you know it, we'll be able to say, okay, we're ready for the final details. And that's when it gets really fun. All these other things that we do early on in the drawing process is pretty technical. I mean, you're thinking constantly about proportions and spatial differences in all the areas, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what needs my attention right now, and you keep going back and forth with all of that. And then finally, eventually, it's like if you've done all those things well, then you end up in a spot where you're like, okay, it's time for those final details. And you get there before you know it, especially on sanded paper. And this LuxArchival is such a great paper if you've not tried it yet. Highly recommend it. It's fun because, by the time you get to those final details, then you're almost done. And this is our 4th time, right, on this particular drawing, and we've probably spent roughly 4 hours on it, and this is how far we've gotten. I think that's good progress. So, all right, I just want to thank you for joining today, and we're going to go ahead and say goodbye, and we'll be back here next week on Monday at 10 a.m. So we will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.